You can come up to the front. So I've got a lot of gifts for you guys to show you. Okay, how many of you have been to a party and they're putting something on the fire? Okay, what do they use to keep that fire going? Any ideas? Like they put stuff in there and it's black. Yes, charcoal. So this is charcoal. You could go ahead and press that around. But what if I did this? What if I decided to press it against your lips? What would you do? Anybody? What would you do?
Depends on if it was hot or cold.
Well, it's hot. So we'll come back to that later. I'm going to tell you the story about the Velveteen Rabbit. Okay, so here he is, or she. So we all know that this Velveteen Rabbit is not real. It doesn't move on its own. So I'll pass it around for you guys to hold on to and look at it. And I'll tell you a little bit of parts of the story. So the Velveteen Rabbit was a gift for the boy. And compared to the other toys, the rabbit was made of sawdust and didn't really think he was anything significant or anything that was nice and shiny. Like, how many of you got some nice shiny toys or things for Christmas? Yes, so compared to that, it's kind of plain, isn't it? Insignificant, doesn't really do much. So here's the rabbit on its day during Christmas, just sitting there. And the boy didn't notice it very much after playing with it for a few hours. So it just sat there, alone. Then one day, as it was sitting around in the nursery, he talked to the horse and asked the horse, what does it mean to be real? Because he doesn't know the feeling of what it's like. So one day, by the grace of the Nana who's in charge of the nursery, the rabbit was given to the boy. And since then, he felt loved because he slept in the warm bed of the boy's bed. And they spent a lot of time out in the springtime, so they were out in the field, having fun, enjoying time together. But there was still something that was lacking. He didn't feel loved himself. And then summertime came along, and I want you to take a look at these. These are real rabbits, right? So around the rabbits, they said, come on, let's go play. Well, could the rabbit play? No. So he was ashamed of himself. He didn't feel worthy enough to play with the rabbits, and he felt self-conscious. Like, you don't feel worthy enough for somebody to play with, right? And then the boy got sick, very, very sick. And he spent time with the boy. And the boy went away to a different room while the rabbit was out in the bed by himself. And then the boy moved to a different bedroom where he was alone and not feeling loved by the boy anymore because he wasn't around him. So the Nana decided to take all the things and burn it in the trash, because that way the boy wouldn't get sick again. So while he was out there, he was alone and afraid. Who's been alone and afraid before? How did it make you feel? Terrible? Scared? Yeah. You doubt yourself too, right? You're like, I'm not worthy enough. Okay. The rabbit was eventually able to get out, and by the grace of the nursery fairy, he had a tear, and that tear sprouted up the nursery fairy. And because of the feeling that the rabbit had for becoming real, guess what? She made him real. But the thing is other rabbits were around to be his playmates, but the rabbit felt self-conscious because he thought he was still fake. He wasn't real. And they said, okay, stretch out your hind legs. And he thought, no, I can't do that because I'm not real. I have things that are wrong with me and things that I just feel like I'm ashamed of. But eventually, the rabbit discovered that he had hind legs and was able to play around with the rabbits right here. So, how did it make you feel? Have you ever experienced that where you didn't feel worthy enough to be loved by anybody? Or that, you see somebody and you feel ashamed because you did something wrong? Who'd like to share? I know these two won't. They're like, you know all about what I did. Okay, well, for me, I feel bad about it, right? Like, for example, you don't make the team, you don't make a sport that you want, or you did something wrong. And there are times that I did something wrong. So, how is this related to Isaiah? Okay. Well, in the Old Testament, Isaiah sees a vision of the Lord. He calls him to be a prophet or a messenger of God. As the king's advisor, he's responsible for giving advice. When he enters the temple, the vision of the Lord was so overwhelming and magnificent or awesome that he thinks of his own sinfulness and cries out, "Woe to me, I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I live among people of unclean, and my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty." He feels unworthy and not good enough to be in the presence of God, let alone be in a temple and to be a prophet. Okay, now we're going to come back to that. And feeling unworthy is a natural human reaction, and it's okay, right? Who's feeling unworthy before? They're like, "Oh, I don't deserve this, I don't do that." Who'd like to share out feeling not unworthy? You don't have to say.
I've been to a business meeting where I didn't know anybody, and realized that they were a different group, so I just hung off on the side and just didn't mix and mingle when I first started in the business world, and it took me a long time to overcome that anxiety.
Yes, that's correct. We don't stay there, right? So remember these coals? Well, one of the seraphs pressed that against his lips, and because of that power, the transformation, all the sin that he had was taken away. So imagine that. We know that this burns you, right? It hurts. And with this, it made the person clean. It didn't burn him at all. So then God asks, "Whom shall I send?" And Isaiah decides to become a prophet. So in the Velveteen Rabbit, the tears are so powerful, and through the grace of the nursery fairy, the rabbit became real. The rabbit's feelings have a longing of a powerful meaning for us. Our real is to become worthy. Who feels worthy after they did something wrong? You're like, good. And that's okay, because guess what? With God, just like the boy, he's always loving us. And when we became clean again, we have this connection with God now, like the boy had the connection with the rabbit. And with that, we feel better. So what I'm saying to you is there's one more thing we must do. We can't go around thinking that we made poor choices, feel unworthy or loved again. Make a clean heart, and you can, through the power of God, be transformed and made worthy again, and to do the calling that you have been called to do. Amen. Oops, sorry.